One of the most powerful things fiction is shown to do to us is affect us mentally and emotionally. It makes us happy, sad, angry, afraid, and curious. It gives us mysteries that are interesting and rich enough to make people feel compelled to solve them, despite the fact that they have no bearing on reality. The class trials from the Danganronpa series are such a case. Students pitted against one another in a battle of the mind to discern who among them killed one of their fellow classmates. And the Danganronpa series is full of many twists and turns. I've been a Danganronpa fan for roughly a decade now. Whew. Getting into the series during my early years of secondary school, and I thought to myself, what are my favorite trials throughout the series? Hi, my name is Astra, and in today's video we're going to be going through the 3 mainline entries, Trigger Happy Havoc, Goodbye Despair, and Killing Harmony, as I explain to you why I think a specific trial in each game is just a cut above the rest. Needless to say, this video will contain spoilers for the entire Danganronpa series, so if you don't want to be spoiled, click off before that happens. Before we dive in, please, for me, be sure to leave a like and subscribe because I plan on making a variety of anime, manga, and video game content. But without further ado,
let's give it everything we've got! It's punishment time!
For Danganronpa 1, it was between 2 specific trials. The first was Sakura Ogami's trial, and the second was Mukuro Ikusaba's trial. These trials take up Chapter 4 and 5 respectively. After some deliberating, I came to the conclusion that Sakura's trial was my favourite trial in Danganronpa 1. To give a synopsis of the events leading to Sakura's demise, Monokuma outs Sakura as the spy, someone who's been working with Monokuma the entire time. Obviously, this sudden news fills the group with reasonable tension. Monokuma did this in order to get back at Sakura for deciding that she would betray him and wouldn't work as his mole anymore. As the news comes, confusion, doubt, and uncertainty sprouts in the remaining students, most notably Byakuya, Hagakure, and Toko, who've lost complete trust in Sakura. Being the closest to Sakura, Hina was very protective of her and had full trust in her, which led to arguments with the others, most notably the time when she was physically harmed by Genocide Sho. Seeing Hina hurt, Sakura decided to put an end to it all and sort things out herself. She invited Hiro, Toko, and Byakuya all to the rec room in hopes that they could talk things out and come to an understanding about the entire ordeal. First, Hiro showed up. Worried Sakura might kill him, he struck her over the head with a bottle and left. Then Toko showed up and passed out due to the sight of blood, causing her to swap to Sho, who panicked and also hit Sakura with a bottle. Byakuya never showed up. Finally, Hina showed up to the site of a severely injured Sakura. Sakura then asked her to bring her a protein shake. Once Hina left, Sakura locked the door and drank a bottle of poison she got from the chemistry lab, dying with a smile on her face. Sakura's trial is a big scramble to figure out who done it. We have 3 main suspects with sound reasoning to kill Sakura, with Toko, Hiro, and Byakuya, 2 of which actually did hurt her to the point of bloodshed. Toko and Hiro's constant back and forth throughout the entire trial is very fun to watch. Both characters are worried, like, oh, I really might have killed her. But if that is the case and I'm found out, I'm done for. And both characters are pretty much in full defense mode from the moment they're deemed suspects. We also have Hina deciding to use the trial to manipulate everyone into thinking that she had killed Sakura to get the entire group killed because of how they treated Sakura. I've seen people online over the years call Hina stupid for this, and yeah, it's not the smartest or most logical thing to do, but that's the point. Hina's acting out of a desperate rage and sadness. She and Sakura became great friends over the course of the killing game, and to have her torn away like this was devastating for her. This trial also had the confrontation between Kyoko and Byakuya at the end, where Byakuya isn't happy because he genuinely fell for Hina's plan and fully believed that she had killed Sakura, only for both Makoto and Kyoko to prove to everyone that Sakura killed herself. Like Kyoko says, Byakuya couldn't reach the truth because he's so dismissive of people's emotions, and that people don't act purely according to logic and calculations. Byakuya is a constant prick, affectionate, throughout the story, so having a character really lay on him like this was really satisfying and cool to see, especially coming from someone like Kyoko. For me, suicide was never on the cards when it came to what I thought was possible with these games. I always assumed that yeah, there'd be a victim and a separate killer because the game needed someone to execute by the end of each chapter, only for this chapter to come along punch me in the face and make me feel stupid for how short-sighted I was. There's also the matter of the suicide notes. Monokuma fabricating a suicide note to at least make the case interesting, one that made it seem like Sakura took her own life out of despair given the hostility of her classmates, when in reality, her actual suicide note reveals she took her life to end this deadlock without hurting her friends, and that she broke the door to the principal's office as one final punchback to the mastermind. It was really interesting how Monokuma's attempt to cause more despair ended up becoming the thing that finally united the band together to vow to defeat the mastermind. Once again, Danganronpa 2 left me with a couple of options to pick from. One of them was Pekko's trial, an incredible trial with a heartbreaking emotional ending, or Chiaki's trial. Still to this day one of the most insane trials the series has ever had, but at the end of the day I did choose Chiaki's trial. So, once again, synopsis time. Throughout this chapter, Nagito is on a mission to weed out the traitor among the group, searching in his own time as well as setting up a bomb scare that would make the traitor feel forced to come forward. Nagito told the group he'd hidden a bomb somewhere that would kill them unless the traitor came forward. The group scrambles searching for the bombs only to eventually find out that it was never real in the first place. Though, a video message left there instructed the group to visit the warehouse next door. There the group would be met by a roar of flames. As the group finds some fire grenades to put the fire out, and after waiting for the smoke to clear, the group search the warehouse, finding the gruesome scene of Nagito Kamaida's murder. After much deliberating, the group comes to the conclusion that Nagito set up the circumstances of his own murder, and filled one of the fire grenades with poison, meaning they currently have no way to figure out who it was that had the poison grenade. That is until it's suggested that Nagito had a target, which was revealed to be the traitor. After much denial from the others, Chiaki eventually reveals herself as the traitor among the group, making her Nagito's target and his killer. After the end of the trial, Monokuma reveals that Nagito's goal wasn't to kill the traitor, but to kill everyone besides the traitor. So yeah, Chapter 5 of Danganronpa 2 is quite a trial, alright. It presents us with a seemingly impossible to solve murder since they would never be able to figure out who had the grenade based on evidence alone. If it wasn't for the realization that Nagito had a specific target in mind, the group would have essentially been cooked. Nagito's entire plan is baffling to say the least, from the initial threats, the explosion in the hotel, all the way to setting up his own murder, stabbing himself, tying himself up, suspending a spear above himself, and taping his own mouth shut. This case is one that is pure chaos and intrigue from start to finish. I think everyone expected that Nagito would become very important again later after his reveal in Chapter 1, but I don't think anyone could have prepared us for his master plan in Chapter 5. Even by the end of the chapter, the group still doesn't fully understand Nagito's intent. Why would he want them all killed? Because it would be another chapter before the group finds out that their identities are remnants of despair. Of course, you then have the traitor reveal, this constant idea posed throughout the game that someone among the class was part of this seemingly bad organization that put them all there and took their memories. And it ended up being Chiaki Nanami. I really like Chiaki. I think she's a wonderful character who fills the Kyoko kind of role pretty well, and watching the others deny that Chiaki killed Nagito with everything they have is incredibly devastating, even to the point where your arguments are with the others rather than Chiaki herself. Chiaki has accepted her fate, but the others aren't willing to accept Chiaki's death like this, and it's just so sad, especially when you have the part where you have to choose a character, and you see Hajime's absolutely distraught sprite in contrast to Chiaki's gentle smile, as she waits for Hajime to seal the deal and finally convict her. The chapter really does feel like we've reached the boiling point of things introduced to us thus far. When we enter the castle, the traitor plotline being resolved, this entire chapter being the product of what Nagito learned after beating the final dead room in Chapter 4. Nagito's death was never going to be something so simple, and I don't think any of us for a second believe that Kodaka would give Nagito such a normal death. We're greeted with what looks like one of the most gruesome scenes the series has had thus far, only for it to continue to spiral further out of control as we find out just how deep Nagito's plan was, with every intricate detail being planned out, only to fail at the final hurdle since Chiaki ended up being executed. I'm sure this one is the surprise of nobody, really. I think V3's trials are consistently good, with Chapter 3 being the only miss in my opinion. V3's trials did such a good job creating enjoyable mysteries that were pretty much always enjoyable to follow. But for me, Chapter 5 really stands above the others. So, for one last time, let's have a synopsis. Kokichi reveals himself as the mastermind and that the outside world is nothing but a post-apocalyptic wasteland, uninhabitable and completely barren. Overwhelmed with despair, the group are genuinely willing to die. That's when Maki finds one more flashback light. Upon using the light, everyone gained memories of Hope's Peak Academy, that they were the symbols of hope, and that Kokichi was a remnant of despair. Upon receiving this memory, everyone's determination unified, resolving to stop Kokichi, save Kaito, and end the killing game once and for all. Only to enter the hangar Kaito is being kept, and find blood inside the hydraulic press, along with Kaito's coat. Since the press won't open, the group has no way of knowing whose body it is since neither Kokichi or Kaito are present. In the trial, someone shows up in an exile, but their voice keeps swapping between Kaito and Kokichi. By the end of the trial, it's discovered that Kokichi planned to put an end to the killing game, creating an unsolvable murder that even Monokuma wouldn't know the answer to. Kokichi would be the victim, and Kaito would be the culprit. Kokichi used the electro hammer and electro bombs developed by Miu to disable the nanokumas, the alarm, and the press safety function, allowing them to crush Kokichi in the press, creating a scene where they couldn't tell who the body belonged to. This way, when Monokuma finally gained visuals on the scene again, there would be no way for Monokuma to know the identity of the culprit or the victim. After realizing Kokichi's plan, Shuichi tries to go along with it, only for Kaito to reveal himself, worrying that if they got it wrong despite Monokuma not knowing the culprit's identity, they'd still be killed. He says goodbye and faces his execution, which ends up failing since Kaito succumbs to his illness, rather than Monokuma's punishment. What? Right. V3 Chapter 5 was a roller coaster from start to finish. This chapter's mystery is very fun. Like Kokichi intended, you create a murder mystery that not even the host of the game knows the answer to, which leads Monokuma to join us in debating the situation and who the culprit and victim actually are. Having Monokuma work with us is a very fun idea, and not something I ever expected from these games. I also don't personally think this mystery was super obvious. I could see a reality where Kaito ended up being the victim and Kokichi ended up being executed, and it would still feel just as good. This chapter is as kept in the dark as I think we've ever felt during a trial. There are so many moving parts that get discovered throughout the trials, such as Maki's attempt to kill Kokichi herself with poison crossbow darts, which ended up getting Kaito as well as Kokichi, her genuinely believing she may be the culprit behind this trial. We unravel this grand performance that reveals that not only was Kokichi lying about being the mastermind, but that his intent was to end the killing game since he couldn't stand it. Kokichi giving Kaito the antidote instead of taking it himself. The chapter ends on a note of, do we really believe Kokichi actually cared about everyone? Or was he just deranged enough to make the killing game so interesting that he'd become a victim himself? Personally, I do believe the former. Personally, I do like the reveal that Maki had feelings for Kaito. I know a lot of people in the community don't like it because she contradicts her backstory, saying that this is the first time she's fought to protect someone, despite the fact that she's fought to protect her orphanage before. So, I understand why others don't like it, but I just really dig their dynamic as a whole. I like the smart, quiet girl falling for the guy who may not be the sharpest tool in the shed, but man, is he a ray of sunshine. And not to mention Kaito's execution. I know there's probably some people that consider it lame, but man, I love me a throwback. Kaito's execution is almost identical to Jin Kirigiri's execution that plays at the start of Danganronpa 1, except this time Kaito's rocket drills down into the earth and flies into space from the other side. As Kaito reaches space, he looks out. He's here, he's actually in space, and then succumbs to his illness, dying with a smile on his face as Monokuma's execution fails. Monokuma didn't kill Kaito. Kaito didn't succumb to Monokuma's despair. He died happy. His friends are alive, and he finally reached the vast reaches of space. It's not often an execution goes wrong, but when it does, it's such an awesome moment in the series, such as Makoto being saved by Alter Ego in Danganronpa 1. Kaito, Maki, and Shuichi are one of my favorite groups in the entire series, so to see one of them torn away was heartbreaking to say the least. To this day, Kaito remains my favorite character in the entire series. Sure, I understand he may not be the deepest character in the franchise, but I've always been drawn to these sort of ray of sunshine type characters like Naruto Uzumaki or Kamina from Gurren Lagann, characters that just make you feel like the impossible is possible. All you have to do is grit your teeth and make it so. So between Kaito's death and his victory over Monokuma, Chapter 5 ended up being a bittersweet goodbye to my favorite luminary of the stars. And there you have it, my favorite trials across the main titles in the Danganronpa franchise. I don't interact with the Danganronpa fandom too closely these days, so I don't know how hot or cold my takes are considered these days, but I can't imagine they're too hot. Remember, these are all purely my opinion. Be sure to let me know your favorite trials down below. One last thing. I know it's been a while since I uploaded, and I apologize. Hopefully the wait between this video and the next won't be too long, but thank you all for watching. My name is Astra, and I'll see you all next time. Cheerio.